In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can work with a bad reed to make it maybe playable without adjusting it. My name is Josh Gu, and after years of studying the clarinet with some of the best teachers from around the world, I am excited to be sharing my knowledge with you. So go to QuickStartClarinet.com or check the description on this video to see all of the wonderful resources I have to help you reach your clarinet dreams. And of course, subscribe to this channel for weekly clarinet and music tips and tricks. In last week's video, we talked a lot about how to know when a reed is bad and when it's ready to throw the reed out and it's just beyond hope. But in this week's video, I'm going to talk about how to take maybe not those worst reeds, but the reeds that are okay and how you can actually work with them and make a better situation out of a bad reed. And of course, there's tons and tons of things that you can do with adjusting reeds, sanding, scraping, knifing, all the kinds of stuff that you can do, even moving the reed around on the mouthpiece. I'm not going to talk about those kinds of things, those adjusting things where you're changing the reed, but I'm actually going to talk about it from the perspective of changing you a little bit. So when a reed is bad, the reason why a reed is bad is because it's not vibrating the way that we want. Remember that playing comes down to a fairly complicated set of variables, but it's all about getting those variables just right for the instrument to sound the best. And a good sounding instrument basically comes down to the reed vibrating really well. And when we're adjusting these variables, the reed itself is actually one of the variables involved in sounding really good. So just like any equation, it more or less needs to be balanced, and there's sort of these Goldilocks points for everything, where the embouchure pressure has to be a certain way, the air pressure and speed and all the variables of there have to be a certain way, the reed itself has to be a certain way, the voicing has to be a certain way. All of those variables have to align to be just right to get the very best sound and the best reed vibrations. Now, we ourselves are sort of used to playing a certain way. We like to hold our mouths a certain way, we like to put a certain pressure on the reed, we like all of the variables. We have sort of a comfortable spot, a muscle memory spot for where we feel those variables need to be. And those variables work with a certain kind of reed that's a certain strength and has the certain responsiveness and inherent strength to it that we need to work with those variables and balance the equation. But if you have a reed that's a little bit different, then it's not going to work with the same other variables. However, you can be in control of those variables, have a little bit of flexibility, and you might be able to make a reed work. So I have this reed, it's the same reed that I used in last week's videos to demonstrate a reed that is beyond hope. And I agree that this reed, I would never perform on this reed. But it maybe could be worth practicing on. It's still maybe even a little bit below the practice quality of a reed, but I'm gonna demonstrate how I can make it work. So if I just play this how I like to play and how I normally play reeds, it sounds like this. It's okay. But it's not a great sound. I can feel, and partially because I know that this reed is older and softer, but I can feel that the issue is that it's too much pressure for it. That's usually the case when a reed gets old, it gets softer, and you need a harder reed to be able to have more embouchure pressure and more air pressure and support. So what I'm going to do, since I know that, I'm going to try opening up and relaxing a little bit, see if that gives me a better sound. And that's a significantly improved sound. Still not maybe an amazing sound, but that's a manageable sound quality and is working. Now, I did say that I knew it was softer, so I tried specifically opening up, but you don't need to know those things and you don't need to be familiar with those things. But what you do need to do is, if it's not the sound that you want, You need to get some flexibility going, change some things up, maybe change the embouchure, even placement on the reed a little bit, the pressure, especially the air, mix up the variables a little bit, make some adjustments to try to get it sounding as good as you can. And that's why I think it's so important to do a really good warm-up and really do long tones, because I find that's kind of the whole point of long tones, is you slap your reed on, you put the clarinet together, and you say to yourself, okay, how is it going to feel to play the clarinet today? And then you do your long tones, and as you're doing them, you're making small adjustments to those variables, mostly subconsciously, and just going for the sound that you want and adjusting until you get that reed, that clarinet, that barometric pressure, whatever, the things that make it feel so different every day. You're getting all of those things lined up so that the variables are in the right spot, the equation is balanced so that you're sounding the way that you want today. And I think by approaching your long tones with that kind of idea of flexibility and openness to figuring out what it feels like to play today, that gives you the general flexibility that you're going to need when you go from reed to reed to reed so that you can make your reed sound good. Because it's absolutely night and day. When I do a good warm-up and I spend the time to get even the first reed that I play sounding really, really good, all of the other reeds that I play the rest of the day feel better than when I just slap on a reed and jump right into the music and try to sound good, of course, but it's just not as good because I haven't taken that time to dial in the variables and sort of calibrate what it feels like to play for the day. So think about that next time you're playing a reed and you're like, oh, this reed's garbage. Yes, it may be garbage and it's very worthwhile trying a different reed. But when you go through 10 reeds and they're all garbage, then it might be something about what you're doing and you might need to change some of the variables to balance the equations for the reeds that you're playing. I think it's possible to sound pretty good on any reed, any equipment, if you're flexible enough with the variables and with all of your embouchure and air and all that good stuff. But when it comes to performance time, I want to find a reed that feels good for the way that I want to play. And that's sort of what last week's video was about. So definitely check that one out if you haven't. Thanks for watching this one. And subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. I also wanted to do a little shout out to some people who always watch my videos and are always commenting. Especially commenting helps the algorithm and makes YouTube think that this is a valuable video that should be shared to others. So thanks so much to Steven and Elisa, or Elise, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but you guys are always commenting. Also Brenda has, I think, more recently found the channel and has commented on a lot of current videos and past videos. So I really, really appreciate you guys, and I see you all commenting over and over and over, and really engaging, and that means a lot to me that these things are helpful and valuable and beneficial to you. So thanks so much for doing that. I look forward to seeing you in the comments and hopefully some new people as well. Thanks for watching this video, for everybody watching it, and I look forward to seeing you in another one.